Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and showing you how to play Cards Against Humanity, a party game for horrible people. So, now, if you haven't heard of Cards Against Humanity by now, you're probably living in a cave or a cabin in the woods or under a rock like a centipede, because this game is everywhere, and it had a ludicrously successful Kickstarter, after which it was, lots of stores were struggling to try to keep it in stock. Now you can even find it in Target of all places. This is a game that just about everybody, even people who don't play any other modern games, have played this game. So now the designers of this game, this was their first design, and they didn't even think to put their names on the box. They also didn't think to come up with a company name and put it on the box, so there's none of that to talk about. But it is, let's see, it has the standard listings for age, number of players, and time. It's listed for ages 17 and up, for 30 to 90 minutes for a play, and for 4 to 20 or more players. It actually says 4 to 20 plus. So now let's start there. First off, I don't get the 4 to 20 plus. It gives me a little chuckle, but they should have just said 4 plus. There is no cap. I think that's the point they wanted to get to. You can play with a ridiculous amount of players. And yes, you can. This game plays just fine no matter how many players you want to play at. And as long as everybody hasn't played this game too much, everybody who's in the group is probably going to laugh their butts off, and nobody really pays attention to points in this game. You'll see what I mean when I'm telling you how it plays and reviewing it. Now, the 30 to 90 minutes, that's really more of an estimate for a normal size game. And when I say normal size, it's like about 4 to 8 players. And for the 17 and up, that has nothing to do with complexity. This is one of the simplest games for modern games that I've ever played. It's incredibly simplistic. It's just, the themes are very adult. It's all right there in the subtitle, a party game for horrible people. If you can turn that part of your brain off that gets offended at off-color, sexist, lewd and lascivious humor, all of that kind of really sort of intentionally offensive humor, if you can turn that off for an hour, hour and a half, and just play the game and laugh, you can have a good time. But consider this a warning to you, because if you can't do that, if you're not one of those people that can laugh at yourself, even when there's a joke, not just at your expense, but maybe at the expense of your country, your ethnicity, your religion, etc., don't play this game. This game is not for thin-skinned people, and that is an important thing. Now, I am going to keep this review quote-unquote safe for work. I'm not going to be reading any of the incredibly offensive material. I'm going to try to keep it pretty clean, but I will be able to thoroughly show you everything about this game and how it plays. Now, as you can see, there's not much theme here. The box is black and white, and everything inside is black and white as well. There's no artwork. It's just the game. So the first thing you get when you open up the box here is the rules. Now the rules, I do have to call this out, they're in a nice thick cardstock. I like this. It feels durable. It feels like it's going to last. But on the other hand of things, that's the rules. The rules are 2 pages. And there's lots of optional rules in there too. The real rules themselves are 1 page. The other page is really all the optional rules. There's not much to this. In fact, I can show you exactly how to play right now in about 1 minute. So this side of the box with all those white cards, everybody gets a hand of 10 of those. And each one of these has a word or phrase on it that is something that's obviously meant to be taken the wrong way. Then these black cards here, you go around the table clockwise, each taking a turn being what they call the card czar. And when you're the card czar, you draw one of these black cards, which will have either a question on it or a statement with a blank space in it that people need to fill. And in some cases, they'll have a statement with multiple blank spaces, and you use multiple cards to fill those. So here's a good example. It's not dirty by itself. The question is, Daddy, why is Mommy crying? Now, I'm sure you can imagine all sorts of ways that this can go horribly wrong, or right, depending on your perspective. But basically, the point of the game is to use the cards to make a horribly off-color or sexual joke that makes the person who read the black card laugh the hardest. Everybody picks an answer. They put it face down, they slide it across the table, you mix them up so you don't know which answer came from which person, you read the question again and read an answer one at a time until you pick the funniest of the answers. They get the black card as a point. First person to 5 points wins, or you can alter the point amount fairly simply. That's it. That's the whole game. There's not much to this. In fact, there's not much game here. It's less of a game and more of a party activity, if you will. And that's one of the big complaints a lot of people have with this, is that the game is very, very light. Now, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad here, but they really boil down to just a couple of things. And that the fact that the game is so light and barely exists at all is one of the big complaints that people will have with this game, because it's barely a game. The entire weight of is this game fun rests on the jokes because of how little there is to the game. So now the jokes are going to be funny if you can get in that mindset of, I'm not going to be offended even when they're making fun of me, even if they're making fun of my country or my nationality or my religion or my ethnicity or what have you. It doesn't matter. If you get in the mindset, I will not be offended, I'm gonna have a good time, then they'll be funny to you and you'll be okay. But they're all shock value jokes. That's what you get when you make jokes that are really just trying to be intentionally offensive and see how far you can push the envelope. And that's what these are. And the thing about shock value jokes is they wear down, they desensitize you. And you get to a point where they're just not as funny anymore, in general and specifically. So in general, after playing this for a while, if you up the points too much, or if you play a couple times in a row, you're going to get to the point where even new jokes that you haven't heard before are going to start to not be as funny. You're like, okay, let's do something else. And by the time you've played it enough that you've gone all the way through these cards, and that does take a while, there's a lot of cards there. But when you get through these cards and you start seeing some of the same answers again, even to different questions, you're going to be laughing less. So because of that, how many stars I give this game has slowly reduced over time. This game is very susceptible to the law of diminishing returns. The way those shock value jokes work on you, in the beginning, I was giving it 8 stars because it was making me laugh and laugh hard until I couldn't breathe. After a while, not so much. I was wanting to play this not as often. I was not laughing as hard. Sometimes I was almost forcing myself to laugh because I'm like, oh, this was funny last time I heard it. Dropped from an 8 to a 7. More recently, after getting all the way through and seeing some of the answers a second time, even a third time, I started to feel like it really wasn't as funny as it used to be, and it dropped from a 7 to a 6. And you're never going to get those back because you're always going to remember the funniest answers, and they won't be as funny when they come up again. And now, after playing it a few more times where I was at a 6 with it and somebody requested we play it, I've now kind of dropped to a 5. So now here's the thing. They make lots of expansions for this game, and they've done well with them. And the reason is because when you get desensitized to these jokes, a lot of people run out and buy the expansions. Take out the cards you're not laughing at anymore, put in the cards that are brand new and you're going to laugh at now, and keep going. And that is an option. You can do that. But are you going to do that forever? Really? I mean, you're going to get desensitized to the new cards too. And each of the expansions is like this big versus the starter box, which is this big. So you're going to go through those expansions a lot quicker. It's going to be like 5 expansions to equal the size of the starter box. So I decided not to buy any of the expansions because I don't want to just, prolong the inevitable. And that's what it feels like. Now, I'm not saying don't buy this game. I'm actually saying do buy this game if what I said to you sounds funny. If it sounds amusing to you, you will enjoy it. But keep in mind, this is not the sort of game that you buy and are playing for 20 years. This is not the sort of game that when your kids come of age, you're going to say, hey, now we get to play that game that you were wondering why mommy and daddy were laughing so hard in the basement with. It's not going to happen because you're not going to be playing that game anymore. And if your kids want to play it at that point, when they get old enough that you're feeling comfortable for them to get these jokes, you're not going to want to play it anymore. It gets old. So while I'm saying, if that sounds funny, buy the game, keep in mind that there's going to come to a point where you're going to have to do one of a few things. You're either going to have to go out and start buying expansions to keep the game fresh. You're going to wind up having this game just sitting on a shelf collecting dust because you're going to be bored with it. Or you're going to do what I'm probably going to wind up doing fairly soon with this game after having it for a few years, is you're probably going to cycle it out of your collection and sell it, which I'm pretty much getting ready to at this point because I've refused to keep sinking money into expansions. Instead, I'm probably just going to sell this game. And there you have it. So it started at an 8 for me, but now it's all the way down to a 5, and that's a pretty big swing. Granted, I got a lot of games out of this while I was enjoying it. I got my money's worth out of it, and I'm not sorry I bought it. And I laughed, and other people laughed. But I talked to other people who played this game a lot, including people in my normal gaming group who played it with me. And they've all felt the same way. After a while, it's like, we don't need to play that game anymore. We've played it a bunch. We've got the enjoyment we want to get out of Cards Against Humanity. We already got it out of the game. And there you have it. But let's get a second opinion. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 would you currently give to Cards Against Humanity?
5.
But now here's another question. When we were first playing it, when we first got it and you were asking to play it a lot, back then how many stars would you have given it?
Probably an 8.
So you're exactly where I am. And see, that's what I'm talking about. When we first got it, we loved it, but it's dropped down in time. So there you have it. So what are your thoughts on this? Have you played Cards Against Humanity? Have you played it a lot? Are you still enjoying it? Have you bought lots of the expansions? Do you totally disagree with me? Any of these things, feel free to comment down below and let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this review and you'd like to see me do more like it, please give me a like, share this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That is Captain spelt with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.